So your name is Frank?
Fabio Frank.
Fabio Frank, and you are a very interesting guy. You have to say, it seems.
I can give you my email address first.
Okay.
Frank, FRANKFG2000 at yahoo.com.
Okay, so Frank, just before we turn this on, you were talking about how you were drafted in Vietnam.
Yes, war.
The Vietnamese War?
Yes.
So, can you tell us more about that?
Well, I didn't register, I didn't report when they called me, so the FBI sent me a telegram, as they do everybody, saying, you haven't registered, you haven't reported, next time we're going to come arrest you if you don't. So I had a little bit of time before the next draft call to decide what I wanted to do. And I was hoping the blacks and Latins would be stupid enough to keep fighting and I wouldn't have to go. But they were street protests and they got smarter. And I knew that the government had made a deal with the black leaders to send more whites to the front lines so they would be considered Uncle Toms. So I had to become political. You can't, the street protests, the blacks and Latins, once they see Gay Paris, they didn't want to go back to the farm. So I became drafted, political, the cynical reasons, but I rapidly became more idealistic.
So you spent a long time in a military jail?
Yes, passing out literature, yes.
How long were you in jail for?
Months. And then I was in, I was court-martialed, and then I disrupted my court-martial, and they sent me to a psych ward, and they drugged me, and then they gave me a discharge with no benefits.
Wow. So how old were you when you were drafted?
I was drafted September 1, 1970, so I was 19,
Okay.
and they had called me up beforehand, of course, like probably beginning 18, 19, when I did not report, and the FBI sent me the telegram.
Okay, so I'm looking here at your book, and you're saying a lot about privilege and white privilege and whatnot. So, can I say you're against 1% privilege in a way? That's what brings you to Occupy Wall Street, or is that?
Well, my message for the past 25 years, I read a book about Russia called Class, K-L-A-S-S by Willis, and he talked a lot about privileges in Russia, in medicine, healthcare. And I said, that's an interesting word. We never really used it in the protest movement. I was in the communist movement for 10 years. We never used that word. So 25 years ago, I said, let me bring it to the protest movement. And for 25 years, if you've noticed, around the world, the protest movement does not use that word.
So, you were a communist?
10 years, yes.
Tell us more about that.
I was in Progressive Labor Party for 10 years.
PL? Really?
Progressive Labor, yes. They were the only ones who were really doing political work in the military.
Wow.
Like they told me, they said, you see a lot of coffee shops around military bases, right? I said, yes. They said, we don't do coffee shops. We go into the military. And I said, right on. That was the way.
Wow.
They had my respect.
Nice. So what other
thing? You know PL though? You use that word?
I know PL because I have friends who are in PL, so that's why I knew about it.
I left because of illness after 10 years, severe illness. I was just at the pain management thing. I have chronic fatigue, and I have to go there for an interview. The woman called me up. I filled out a questionnaire. So that's why I left PL, not because of ideological reasons, but because of very, very severe illness.
Oh, okay. So you wouldn't. So if you were better, you'd go back to PL?
No. You know why? Because they, like Occupy Wall Street, do not really talk about privileges. But I use a lot of their ideas, like the Workers' Student Alliance. They talk about open political work and non-public or secret political work. I give them credit for a lot of things, but they do not get privilege. To me, that is the key word.
This takes on a whole new tangent. So what do you think of RCP?
What's RCP?
The Revolutionary Communist Party.
Is that the Bob Avakian party?
Yes.
Well, Progressive Labor Party, one of the things I give them credit for, they never had a picture of any leader in the 40 or 50 years I've known them. Bob Avakian, they're like a kiddie party. Every sentence, every picture has Bob Avakian in it. And they give me good criticism, but I said, come on guys, grow up. I tell people, when Chavez speaks for 8 hours or Castro speaks for 8 hours, what is that telling you? I am privileged. When a Bob Avakian is in every sentence, every picture, what does that tell you? He is privileged. You got to grow up, Bob. They have very excellent criticism about materialism, about political work, but if you belong to a kiddie communist party, I mean, come on. Am I right or am I wrong?
I see that.
Like his book, What I Did During My Summer Vacation to Liberate the Oppressed Workers, or to find out, Bob Avakian, give other people credit for things.
So, how long have you been with Occupy Wall Street?
Since the pepper spraying. But
the pepper spraying of the people in Union Square?
Yeah, no, they were going to that fracking demonstration. Yeah, I think it was in Union Square.
Yeah, the girl.
Yes, and that gave a lot of publicity. Before that, I didn't think it was that. I went to the fracking demonstration that they were on their way to. I didn't think Occupy Wall Street was that big a deal. I had a choice between going there and the UN. I said, nothing's happening down Wall Street. And once they got publicity, the next day or whatever, I went down here.
Oh, wow. So, how long do you plan on staying?
Well, my purpose for the past 25 years, my sole thing I judge things by is privilege mentioned in the protests. when the woman was in Thompson Square Park speaking about the Fukushima nuclear power accident, and I think she was touring the country. I said, do you use privileges in your sign in Japan? She says, we don't use the word privilege. Just like they don't use the word privilege here. We don't. They don't. In Zuccotti Park, if you were down there, they don't use the word privilege in any of their posters.
So would it be safe to say one of your goals here is to get them to talk more about privilege, Occupy Wall Street?
And also to put it in their posters. When my sentences about privilege are logical. But there was a famous book written in the 60s where the message was the medium is the message. He was talking about TV. He said not just the programs is the message, but the fact that you have TV makes the world a communal village. And so my message is logical, but the main message is privilege is important. Privilege is important. That's the subliminal message. And I'm hoping that people will hook up and think, oh yes, I should use privilege in my signs. When people are being killed in Tahrir Square, why are they being killed? They're being killed because they're opposing the military's privileges. The military's not killing them to kill them. There's a specific reason why they're being killed.
Okay. So I'm curious, would you like to, going back to one of the things we talked about earlier, would you like the military to abolish selective service?
The United States cannot abolish selective service because they need the manpower so much. It's an imperial power. When they talk about free healthcare, free education, people resented being drafted. What they've done now is they've made military education and healthcare so expensive, and housing, and the only way you can get it now is by going into the military. And that's why they should talk more about the militarization of healthcare, the militarization of education, the militarization of housing. But they don't. They just say they try to be goody two-shoes. We want free healthcare. We want free. Come on, you got to be tougher. That's the real reason why a lot of that stuff is not free. I didn't realize this until I read in the paper. When the economy was good and they were giving, and they were trying to hard time getting people in the military, they said when they draft the healthcare bill, one of the key things is how it affects the draft or the selective service. I had no idea that was one of the angles. Like they were saying, if you join, you can your relatives can get health care, or if you join, you can get your one of your relatives to get the educational benefits. Now they don't care because the economy is so bad. They cut out, I think, that benefit. But before they were more desperate to get people in the military.
Okay. So what do you envision happening in Occupy Summer?
Well, I don't really care what. I hope it's successful in whatever way, but my definition of success always revolves around privilege. I want to start an Occupy Privilege group. We need 5 people, and for months now I cannot get 5 people to have an Occupy Privilege group. That's how little privilege is recognized in the political movement in general. 5 people. 5.
I'm curious for a second. Wouldn't you say that people Occupy Wall Street arguing that the 1% have been bailed out and they've been treated fairly is maybe treated more fairly than the 99%? Wouldn't you say that in a way is them acknowledging privilege without actually saying it?
That people that is what?
Would you say? Let me rephrase that. Wouldn't you say that the fact that people at Occupy Wall Street are directly pointing out how the 1% benefits from tax cuts and whatnot and benefits directly from the society, wouldn't you say that is a way of acknowledging privilege without actually saying the word privilege?
Yeah, I mean, the privilege feeds on privilege. So once they got in trouble, of course they got bailed out. But that's true around the world. And the 99. This is a reaction to that. That's a reaction to the austerity. And a lot of these people here are desperate. They have families being ruined by families being thrown out of their houses, mortgaged by ruinous student loan debts. People down here, I don't think would be here for idealistic reasons. Like me, I became political because of practical reasons, and I think the people down here in the main part are people.
So you just want to say privilege, at least. Want to at least say it, rather than
To me, privilege is the very fabric of the universe.
Okay.
And it's more than just a word. I think people are going to acknowledge it after a while. It's a very, very powerful word.
Because I'm curious, I figured that may be the reason. Okay.
Like Forbes magazine is an capitalist organizing tool. To me, the word privilege. I think what happened was, when I was in the military, a lot of people were being put on trial and sentenced to 6 months in jail, 2/3 loss of pay, and dishonorable discharge. Very punished very severely. I went to an 1199 organizing meeting with 10 communists and 10 non-communists, and all the non-communists said, the communists said, well, let's keep our same salaries. I was a nursing aide then, very poorly paid. And we said, but just because your mortgage payments are being paid on your salary, so if you're an X-ray technician, you make more money, that's okay. And your children's tuitions are being paid by that, let's keep our same salary. All the non-communists said, excuse me, if I can make $50,000, $100,000 a year, this is 1970s, I want to make that money. And then I realized the divide between the sacrifice of the Vietnam War movement and the union movement. And I was looking into a word to describe that. I said, so you want to be special, you want perks, prerequisites, bennies, benefits, goodies. You know, I was using all these words until I met the word privilege, and I said they wanted to be privileged. And that's why I think it's a very powerful word. I didn't use that word. So then I sent that word privilege to a Marxist-Leninist group on the Usenet. This is in the 1970s, 80s, and they said, what does privilege have to do with Marxism-Leninism? And like my friend said, we were demonstrating against the Vietnam War. In a way, weren't we demonstrating against privilege? It turns out, unless you mention that word, you're not. That was a lesson I got from that Usenet reply. It was a nice reply, but they said, and I said, even though we never mentioned it, wasn't Marxism about privilege? And they said, and they were replying, no, it wasn't. So the whole jargon of Marxism-Leninism, in a way, is access to privilege. You have to learn dialectical materialism, all this jargon to be a privileged person.
Any last words? Anything else you have to add to that? Sorry, I was done. But yeah.
I guess I just how important privilege is. To me, that's going to be the powering word.
All right. Thank you.